лекция называется «10 ключевых шагов на пути к успешному релизному партнерству». Ее будут читать Тед Урсу, директор по развитию бизнеса из Funtomic. You can start.
Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi guys, my name is Ted. I'm the business development manager for Funtomic for the past 3 years. And in this position, I've managed releases and game launches in all platforms and phases. My experience in the gaming industry is about 5 years long. In this presentation, I would like to address 10 key points that will factor heavily in the successful release of your mobile title. Now, one of the most important things you should know about releasing a mobile game is that you don't really need a publisher, as most of you know, but you probably need a partner. Because in our view, indie developers are very awesome at making cool games and collaboration, and they have a lot of passion for their work. However, funding, marketing, expertise, monetization, testing, analytics are most of the time beyond their reach. So that's why we have Indie Moses here to give you the 10 commandments of a successful mobile release. The first one would be contact your partners early. The second one is identify a good publisher. Secure more revenue share. Secure comfortable financial. Use your publisher's experience. Test usability. Be patient. Soft launch your product. Use a marketing plan. And commit post-release. Now, about contacting partners in the early stages of development. Most of you indie developers are very reluctant to contact partners with a fairly unfinished product because you might think it's not attractive enough to show it to a publisher just yet. However, a good publisher will actually be able to evaluate your product in the very early stages of your production. So working with hundreds of developers thus far, I can understand your reluctance. However, a good publisher that's not in the business of picking up your game and just releasing it and getting 20%. I guess what I'm trying to say is they'll see the value of your idea. Keep in mind that your publisher has seen, played, and managed releases before. And by contacting them in the early stages of your prototype, you might avoid investing a lot of money and time in a game that's not completely finished just yet. And you might just take the wrong turn, and contacting a partner at a very early stage might save you all that headache. Now, how do you identify a good publisher? First of all, a good publisher will be someone you already know. It's hard for you, somebody that doesn't have a stellar staff, successful past releases, and a great business reputation to be a great publisher for your game. In the early stages of your discussion, you have to be on the lookout for key expressions such as usability testing, marketing plan, data access, post-release commitment, and please don't be afraid to ask what each of these terms actually mean, because if you're inexperienced with it, then it's totally fine. Another heavy factor should be the exposure they're able to give to your title. Obviously, a big brand will promote a lot better. Now, also a good publisher will identify a good monetization model for you. You might think that your game is better as a paid app or a free app or a free paid app, because there's such a thing as a semi-niche product called a free paid app. However, it's the publisher's job to identify the best way to monetize your game. And I actually have an example for you. Here's some figures. And recently, free-to-play games counterperformed paid games 30-1 in downloads, and about 70% of the total revenue generated by the top 100 grossing games in the App Store are freemium. And the best example is EA Games, right? EA Games are huge. And in 2013, they they released FIFA 13 as a paid app, and it turned out to be a bestseller. So it was most logical for them to release FIFA 14 as another paid app, but they didn't. They released FIFA 14 as a freemium app. So obviously, this is probably the way the industry is working these days. And for good reason too, I might add. Now, you, as an indie developer, you need money, right? Because you're not corporate. You don't have millions of dollars to invest in your games. So you want to secure some comfortable financials. And this stage of the process should actually take place maybe during your first week of talking to your future publisher. And you have to secure comfortable financials. Not greedy, but comfortable. So excuse me, the technology isn't helping here. I think I moved this. It's good now, I think. It should work now. Well, let's see.
Command. I think you need to press Control. This is command.
Not extend. You need duplicate.
Duplicates.
When we'll get the signal back, it'll be okay.
Yeah, we just need to jiggle this. You know it better. You want to jiggle it?
Okay.
All right.
So I'll just stand here and hold it like this.
No, just put the water bottle back. It should be fine.
Let's do it.
And we're on. And if you let it go, for now. Wow. Worst laptop ever, man.
Connector. Okay, we have a connection. That's good.
I just have to exit.
Oh.
Duplicates and kind of, yeah. All right. But it's not full screen though. How do you make it full screen again? Here.
And we're good.
I know two words in Russian, хорошо and давай. So хорошо, давай. So we were at the point where we were actually talking about money. We got interrupted at the worst point ever. So I'm not sure how it works with other publishers. I know quite a few publishers, and I know a lot of indie developers. And to everybody in this business, when talking about money is always a sensitive topic in a way, right? So I'm here to tell you that in a publishing deal for your earliest alpha game that you're making, and if you're signing the publishing deal, there should be money. So if you're running into a publisher that says, let's see how the game is going to do, and let's see how we're going to perform in the future, there's no money up front, it's wrong. There should be money. Why? Because the money has to secure you a buffer. Because you're probably going to develop that game for a month or 6 months or even 11 months, and you're going to need money to live off. So the correct answer to the question, how much money should my publisher pay me as an upfront payment, is enough to make you comfortable. Now, sticking to that particular financial theme, there's always a revenue share dilemma. Now, obviously, an indie developer is not going to be a bank, like I said before. So, to them, securing a larger initial financial deal might seem a bit more attractive than securing a larger share of the revenue. Now, in my opinion, that is wrong. And I actually have like a certain experience here with developers, and to me, it turns out that as far as the revenue share dilemma is concerned, you can classify them as developers that don't really trust their product that much, so they ask for tons and tons of money in advance and are willing to settle for 20 or 30% of future revenues, or developers that trust their product so much that they're willing to negotiate the minimum amount of upfront money in order to secure a better share of future revenues. And we think those are the developers, publishers, good publishers would be more interested to work with, because obviously they trust their product more and they're going to be a lot more interested in optimizing and developing their product better. So stand by your great game by negotiating on a stronger percentage. That's my advice. Now, you should be aware that the publishers have a lot of data. And we have like really complicated business data and gameplay data, like first day playtime, retention, completion, choke points. And we've published before, not just us, but the publishers in general. So a good partner will actually make use of those references to help you optimize your game. In fact, comparing the early performance of your title with others is a key indicator of being on the right track. So let me just give you an example here. A lot of you have probably made games and have heard about first day retention rate. Now, in the soft launch phase of a game, a publisher is actually going to measure the first day retention rate of your title. And just to give you a ballpark, if it's 30% or below, so even simpler, if 1,000 users download your game and only 250 come back and play the next day, then there's something there's still some work to do on that game. So that's a very important indicator, the first day retention rate. And this is just a small example. We probably have 50 factors like that actually tell us whether a game is going to be successful or not from the first very few days of its soft launch. And if it's not, you just optimize it more. You know, that's what you have to do. So what is early performance though? Well, it consists of usability testing and soft launch. So let me just run by those two terms very quickly. So usability testing is your first contact. That's actually a starter reference for the geeks amongst you. It's one of the methods of testing your early performance. This part of the process should and is your publisher's responsibility. Be through third-party services or in-house sessions or both, they should be able to provide data about how your prototype is perceived by first-time users. Now, mind you, usability testing is always done by and through inexperienced users. So there's a matter of, it's a lot easier to perceive how your game will perform if they haven't seen the concept before, if they haven't seen the graphics before, and you get a lot of important data that tells you how to develop your product further. Like for instance, we're publishing a game with a company in Ukraine called Smokoko, and the game is desktop racing. It's seen quite a bit of success on the web. And if you're looking at the second image, there's a turbo button in your bottom right corner there. Well, right next to it, there used to be a gas button, like an acceleration button. And in the first round of usability testing, we realized that users are clumsy in using it, so we stripped it down. And this was something that us experienced game developers and game testers didn't realize. So we had to go through usability testing to realize that our game had just too many buttons, right? So it's obviously really important to go through this process. Your second early performance stage is the soft launch. Now, how does soft launch work? Your publisher and you choose a very limited number of countries. Your country of origin, their country of origin, and maybe a couple more countries. You launch on a single platform, preferably Android, and to a very limited number of users. Now, I'm not a big fan of, how do I put this, classic user acquisition. But if there's any point of a mobile launch that requires user acquisition, it's probably the soft launch. And we think maybe 10,000 users will actually give you enough critical mass for you to be able to perform further tests. So this is, I cannot stress enough how important it is that your publisher actually buys you 10,000 users. Soft launches in Russia, or Ukraine, or Israel, we're based in Israel, and we decide how those 10,000 users perform, and based on that, we optimize the game a little further, if needed, of course. This happened again. I'm not even kidding you, this is Israel technology we're using, so it should be good. Let's just, yeah. Maybe? Yeah. We just have to duplicate it. No, it's good. Yeah, there we go. Oh, man. I only have a few minutes. 2 minutes? Okay. Yeah, but I lost many minutes because of this. So. There we go.
And we lost it. Nope, we're good. Okay.
Now, it seems like we only have two more minutes left, and I actually had like so this is the soft launch. I'm gonna, it's important. Buy users, test, optimize, move on. Now, okay, so what you guys, I almost said you people, like you're a race, indie developers, what you guys lack a lot is the patience. So you just have to know that the publishers have like a lot of people that we don't even know what they do, but they analyze data a lot, and it just seems to me that they come up with results and problem solving that we wouldn't have thought of. So, and sometimes they request changes from a developer that look a little bit counterintuitive. But as you can see from the success kit there, they really nail it. So I actually have an example for you here. We have a title called Kizzy Go that will be actually launched soon, so you might as well go ahead and check it. So we discovered that we were losing a lot of people after a certain amount of playtime. So after a week of testing by our data engineers, we discovered that there were 2 levels in that game that were harder than the average, and people were getting sick of dying, so they would quit playing the game. They wouldn't come back to play the game anymore. So after we pinpointed that part, we fixed those levels, made them slightly easier, and the game had like an outstanding increase in retention. So it's just those, like I said, sometimes the smallest changes have the greatest impact. I'm gonna move on quick to the marketing plan. Well, here's how it is. You have to have a marketing plan. Thank you. And another important thing is post-release commitment. Now, a lot of the successful titles that you currently play on your iPads have not had success from day one. Maybe some of them had, but 90% of them didn't have. So we can tell you that post-release efforts good marketing tools. Data deconstructions and all that represent an ongoing effort, and most of the money that your game will make will eventually come from keeping it fresh, updated, and optimized. And I have a really good example here, and these are really important figures. We have a title called Chicken Boy that was released about 9 months ago, and it did well, but not close to our expectations. So what we did was we put the development team that made the game on it again. We identified a lot of the choke points and the exit levels and stuff. And eventually, we actually got the average revenue per user to increase 15 times after the update. The 7-day retention doubled, and the 30-day retention increased 5 times. And that came from 2 small optimizations post-release. So it's really important to keep an eye on your game post-release. So now that I don't have time anymore because of the technology problems we had, I would like you guys to ask me any questions you might have, or if you have any games you want to show me or private questions you want to ask me, please find me at the Funtomic booth in the silver sponsor area. So any questions for now? I'll take 2 questions because I don't have time.
Спасибо, Тед. Да, можете задать вопросы.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to ask a question about beta testing or soft launch. When do you think what the stage of the product should be that is enough for soft launch or beta testing?
I think it should be not an alpha or a beta, but when you think it's finished. When you think it's finished, it's probably not finished. It's still actually a beta. But when you, the developer, and us, the publisher, think after all the usability testing and everything we've done, we think it's good to go, we soft launch, and we discovered it was not good to go. So that's the part where you soft launch, and that's why you soft launch, because you think it's good to go, but you're not confident enough to launch it worldwide because there might be a problem with it, and you discover it usually in the soft launch. So not in alpha, not early, not beta, just when you think it's ready for the first time, because it's not ready.
Okay, and do you think a developer working with a publisher should anyway promote the game by themselves? So you, of course, invest as a publisher, but
if in particular case, let me give you an example. Sometimes, we got Smokoko that were making desktop racing with us to actually work on a trailer, because they already made a trailer before, so they had the manpower to make it. We could have done it ourselves. So sometimes, sure, there's situations where the developer can promote themselves. However, if they're not big enough and they're only focused on making games, I don't really see the point of them wasting the time that the publisher is there to actually promote their game. So, it's not a very straightforward answer, but more likely not, right? They should not promote the game themselves.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hello. So,
Hi.
What is the average revenue per user after your optimization, if it's not a secret?
It is, though. I'm sorry. It's good. It's actually better than we expected, but it's not a number that I'm at liberty to discuss.
More than $3 per user, or
More, yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Sure. Hi.
I too have a question about soft launch. You said that soft launch is preferred on Android. Well, why?
Because it's a lot easier, and you don't when you submit a game to the App Store, they actually literally just play it in order to approve it, and you're sparing yourself the trouble of them having to play the same game with minor changes 2 months after and reapprove it. It's just easier. So on Android, we launch games in 20 minutes. So,
Okay, thank you.
sure. All right, if there's no more questions, you can, like I said, you can find me at the Funtomic booth in the silver sponsor area. Thank you. Sorry about skipping some of the slides.
Всем спасибо.